Join me, Ellis Martin, for a conversation with Rana Vig, President and CEO of Blue Lagoon Resources, trading on the CSE as BLLG and in the U.S. on the OTCQB as BLAGF. The company is advancing its high-grade Dome Mountain Gold Project in British Columbia, Canada, moving from exploration into production, with gold shipments going to Nicola Mining for processing. We'll discuss the road to production, partnerships, and what's next for Blue Lagoon. Rana, welcome back to the program. It's certainly great to visit with you, my old friend. And I say that because we've known each other probably well over 10, possibly 15 years. You have done an amazing job coming from a sector that was not mining into mining and taking a company from an early exploration stage to basically a producer. You will be delivering gold in November to Nicola Mining for processing, and you have just started mining there at Dome Mountain. Let's talk about your road to success.
Thanks, Alice, for having me back again. And yes, we have known each other for a long time. In fact, you're one of the first people I met when I got involved in this business back in 2011. And wow, what a rough ride it has been, because as you may recall, the sector was completely had collapsed back in 2012, and those lean years of 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, it was just incredible. When we bought this project, gold was only at $1,350, and I thought, my goodness, I think it's going to get to 2,000. It's going to be amazing. And look where we are now. Look, it's a tough business, right? Getting the environmental permits and just general permits for mining, and particularly in this province, is very difficult. But we did it. It took us 5 years of very hard work, and we couldn't have done it at a better time. Oh my goodness, gold hitting over $3,800 this past few days is just absolutely incredible. And we're just, as you mentioned, just started mining last week. So we are literally just at the beginning of building the foundations of what I believe will be a great company.
All the pieces are there, like you've stated. You couldn't have done this without our other sponsor company, Nicola Mining. In this environment, investors want to see a road to production. Talk about your partnership with Nicola.
Nicola's been a great partner. One of the ways that we de-risked this project was early on, is a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago or so, we sent out 5,000 tons to Nicola's mill to test it, right? I really wanted to see what kind of recoveries we would get and how logistics were going to work. And 5,000 tons is a fairly significant sample. So we sent that over the course of, about roughly just under 4 months. And that generated us incredible results. They confirmed 95% recovery of the gold at 9 grams a ton, which is just absolutely fantastic. That generated us about $1.7 million when gold was about $1,800. Now imagine where gold is now and what kind of revenue we're going to get now. But that's a side note. With Nicola, the partnership has grown every year. And just a couple of days ago, I'm not sure if you saw, but we just news released that we re-signed our agreement and extended it to 10 years. And one of the nicest things about our relationship is they have so much confidence in our project. They came up a couple of years ago and were so impressed that they actually invested $1 million into the company. So they own about 6%, have an equity stake in our company, which was very reassuring. And then they went one step further and they gave us a $2 million unsecured line of credit. It's just unheard of in this industry. That's how much confidence they have in the project and how much they want to help this partnership grow so that we can be successful. So I have nothing but fantastic to say about Peter Espig, who's the president of the company, one of the best guys I've met in this business, and Nicola has just been a fantastic partner. Tremendous support.
Like you, he's a no-nonsense individual. I understand you were at Beaver Creek for the Precious Metals Conference recently, and you had some discussions. Maybe they were casual, maybe they were serious with some of the majors over there. Let's not mention who they were, but they're pretty impressed by what you're doing there at Dome Mountain.
Yeah, look, that was intriguing. I'm a student of the business, so I like to listen a lot to people who I believe know a lot more than me. I think that's very important. And that's one of the things that came out of this trip for me, was meeting with some of the serious players. And I was intrigued. And I asked one of them, I said, why are you meeting with us? We're just a little guy. We're just a little company just getting going. And their answer was just so reassuring. They said, look, you guys have one of the biggest land packages in the province. We're at 22,000 hectares. And they said you have an 18-kilometer strike length that has yet to be tested. And you've only drilled a couple hundred meters at best in depth. They know these systems, these alkali gold systems, carry a lot of gold, right? So it's just a matter of getting that, as they say in this business, getting that truth machine out there and finding what we have. At the core of our company, we're an exploration company. It's fantastic that we've been able to take this asset and monetize it at the perfect time possible with these gold prices. So now we can take that free cash flow. We can start to build out our resource, right? We have 218,000 ounces currently in the measured and indicated, but we have a clear path to 1 million ounces plus of high grade, but just on the one Boulder vein. Now, as you may recall, that we have 15 other veins, high grade veins that are known to us within a very close proximity of the vein that we're working on. But then the balance of the 22,000 hectares that we have, more than 90% of it has been untested. When I say untested, we've flown it, right? We've done magnetics on it. And the whole thing just lit up, which is what is intriguing. So we have a lot of data that support that we have to follow up and do a lot more drilling. So we take that free cash flow now, increase the resource from 218,000 to the million plus that we believe that we have. Plus we take that free cash flow and we put it into this 18-kilometer strike length to test what else we potentially have here, because we believe we have multi-million ounces here.
So you're not going to hold back with drilling, even though you're in production now and you have the ounces that you mentioned. You're going to self-fund into more exploration, more discovery, and hopefully that will drive more interest in the company.
Absolutely. All without dilution to shareholders. That's the key. That's what's exciting for us. And look, yeah, exploration is what we want to do. And next year we'll start a fairly aggressive exploration program and just try to prove out what we have, because that's really at the core what this company is all about and how we're going to grow. Production really is the smallest part of the story.
Rana, I've got to say this because generalists are listening to the program. They're going to look at everybody's chart here. We cover several companies in BC. While gold is hitting $3,800 an ounce, we're not seeing the love with the equities. What do you think the reason for that is?
I think people are a little nervous right now because gold has gone up too fast, right? Some people believe, right? It's gone up significantly. So I think that there's people who are expecting some sort of pullback. So think that maybe these companies will get revalued lower, and that's the time to get in. I don't subscribe to that because, yes, gold has had a big run up and yeah, maybe it will correct and possibly in the short term. But you know what? It doesn't matter. Companies like ours, we've done our numbers based on not current prices, but really at around $2,600 gold. So if you believe that gold is going to be at least $2,600, then companies like ours are going to do fantastic because of that free cash opportunity. If it doesn't correct, that's even better. It's going to even generate even more cash. I can only speak to a company like ours. Blue Lagoon, I think, is perfectly priced right now. I think we're still significantly undervalued because of what we have our hands on and the fact that we're about to get into production. And if you look at it, our stock has been very stable over the last multiple weeks. It's been trading at around this modest, around 90 million CAD, about 60 million USD market cap. So it's a very modest market cap that's, I think, ready to break out when we start to announce we're in cash flow. We've started shipping to Nicola. We've received our first check. I hope you'll have me back when we get our first check, and that'll be very exciting for us. And I think that's when the market's going to start to recognize, wow, these guys are actually doing what they said they were going to do.
Did I just hear that you're going to write me a check?
We all hear what we want to hear, Ellis. We all hear what we want to hear.
The buzz is that gold would be the new crypto, the new AI, the new thing. It's been around forever. We've been in the business for a while, but I think with the kind of dip that we've seen over the last 2 years and the kind of interest now that is coming into gold purely because of the price per ounce, $3,800 US, even if it dialed back to 3,200 with some sort of a correction. I don't believe it would go any lower than that. I think we're in for a heck of a potential parabolic rise in the equities at some point in the very near future.
Yeah, look, it always happens, right? The majors start to get traction first, which they are right now. They're making money hand over fist. And then the money starts to trickle back down into the juniors. And yeah, I think it's just waiting for that explosion to happen. And that's the thing. Look, this is not trading, this is investing. So you have to take a look at companies and companies like ours, and you have to say, okay, am I willing to make the bet? And what I like about what we've got going on is that we have the steadiness of the cash flow, right? Because we're one of the very, very few. Somebody told me the other day that, man, you guys have just joined the elite club. There's very few companies like us around the world that have the actually ability to produce cash and then take it back and put it into exploration. I think you evaluate that and, okay, look, these guys are trading at a modest market cap. Do we invest at this time and then sit back and enjoy the ride?
I spent a lot of time in the Yukon. We had several companies that we covered over there in past years. And I remember what happened when the majors came in and they just collected everything. And those companies were not in production. They're still not in production. And I think BC is the real mother lode here, especially the area where you're at, and places in the Golden Triangle. So my question to you is, they're already sniffing around. It's going to be very difficult for you to say no to them when they want to acquire you when your share price isn't quite where you want it yet.
Yeah, look, that's certainly something that I've thought about. I don't think that that's a possibility here yet because we're still too small. The majors like to see a larger resource. They want to see that 18-kilometer strike length tested. So as we start to do that, certainly they're watching us. And as we start to do that, I think there's going to be opportunities. But I think there'll be other opportunities. And in fact, I'm working on a couple right now that I can't talk about. But there are things that I'm looking at. British Columbia has a tremendous roll-up opportunity. There are so many companies, so many great projects, incredibly cheap right now. Because financing is still difficult, right? It's very difficult to go out and raise money for just pure exploration. And that's one of the nice things about that, what we have. And by the way, we are fully funded, right? We've still got a couple $1 million in the bank. We got $3.6 million in the money warrant. And we've got this $2 million line of credit from unsecured line of credit from Nicola. We've got about $7 million with this path to production that we're on here currently. As we grow the company, there's going to be other opportunities for me to look at, I think, before we get there. But at some point, someone is going to have a serious conversation with us, I assure you. I'm very confident. And we'll get a great value for shareholders. I'm a patient guy to look at everything. I've been patient so far. You had to be to get this permit. We'll see over the next coming months. We'll see how things shape out, but I'm very excited and positive for the future.
So when I spoke with Peter Espig of Nicola Mining, he basically said the same thing. He's looking for other opportunities to invest in, to bring on board for Nicola in that specific area where you're at. Are you working with them on this?
Sure. We've had a number of discussions. Absolutely. He's a trusted partner, so we like to meet regularly, strategize, and we see a number of paths. I've even had meetings in New York with bankers who are showing me and discussing a path to a bigger market in the U.S. So there's a lot of things happening in the background that I'm looking at very carefully to grow this company.
What can we look forward to during the next 6 months with Blue Lagoon?
Oh, we've got so much going on. Also, the next thing you're going to hear us announce is pretty much that we've started shipping to Nicola. I think that's going to be a big announcement. And then followed by, we received our first check from Nicola. That'll be huge. It'll really show the market that we are actually doing what we said that we would do. And then after that, we'll start announcing our numbers every month and what kind of cash that we're accumulating, followed by the announcement of starting to drill early next year. So there's a lot of news flow that's coming certainly over the next 6 to 12 months.
I look forward to sharing that news with our audience. Rana Vig, thanks so much for chatting with me today in the program. Great to visit with you.
Thanks for having me again.
I've been speaking today with Rana Vig, President and CEO of Blue Lagoon Resources, trading on the CSE as BLLG and on the OTCQB as BLAGF. To learn more about the company and its progress at the Dome Mountain Project, visit BlueLagoonResources.com. You've been listening to the Ellis Martin Report on Money Talk Radio.